This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
We are never seeing a stable Middle East, man. Never.
It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life.
Hitlerite right from the beginning.
Assa fought as an officer in the Tank Corps, and he was wounded in battle. He was wounded in battle while protecting his fellow soldiers from a grenade. He lost his right arm and the vision in his left eye. He's recovering, and incredibly, within a short time, Assa will soon return to active duty as a commander of a tank company.
Palestinians! Yeah!
I just learned there is a fourth hero here, Lieutenant Jonathan Ben Chamo, who lost a leg in Gaza and continued to fight.
By the way, this is fascism. The like celebration of soldiers continuing the fight, even when you have a massive number of soldiers you could call upon and they're injured or like disabled. It's like the idea of living for war. Like the veteran does not get to enjoy retirement after they've suffered a severe injury. It's you live for war. This is very specifically a fascist thing. In America, when you're injured in war, you're going home, man. They're not gonna like fucking force you out there with a missing arm, like some psychopath. But here, you live for the fight. That's what you're here for. Some Ukrainians do come back. Yeah, but Ukrainians are fighting down to the man. Like Ukrainians are fighting like bit for bit to fight back against Russia. You know, they're not doing that with Hamas. I think they volunteer to keep fighting, but Netanyahu is choosing to celebrate it. My point is, it's ghoulish to celebrate this. Oh yeah, man, they lost a leg and they're gonna go back and keep fighting. Why would you celebrate that? Shouldn't you be celebrating them like retiring? Shouldn't you say like they had their moment of heroism and now they're going to retire? Like that's the psychotic part. You can volunteer back if you want. It's about celebrating it. Life is lived for war. Classic tenet of fascism. Yeah, the Ukrainians aren't living for war. They just don't want to fight. They don't want to lose.
These are the soldiers of Israel. Unbowed, undaunted, unafraid.
See? They have no shortage of soldiers. They're doing this because they like celebrating life until death.
As the Bible says,
fuck you.
Am kelavi yakum. They shall rise like lions. They have risen like lions. The lions of Judah, the lions of Israel.
This, do I need to tell you this is fascism? Come on. What am I here for? They live and they die. They live to die for Israel. They live to serve the state. They are religious allegories.
Ladies and gentlemen, spirit of the Maccabees, the legendary Jewish warriors of antiquity. With us today.
Again, constant allegories to like imagine historical biblical past. It's exactly the same shit that like Nazis do with Hyperborea. Like, yeah, you're like your Aryan ancestors who strode 12 feet tall across the plains of the Nordic lands. To be fair, the Maccabees did exist. It doesn't matter whether or not they existed. The point is the allegory. The Maccabees in real life, as they existed, are not the Maccabees as referred to in like the fascistic ramblings of a, come on, use your head. Like, the America existed in the 1950s. Did the America of the 1950s that conservatives pretend existed exist? No. It was a fantasy.
If the state of Israel had not been established after the Holocaust, the image engraved in our collective memory would have been the photograph of that helpless Jewish boy in the Warsaw Ghetto holding his hands up in the air with Nazi rifles pointed at him. But because of the birth of Israel, Yechiel continued.
Now we get to be the ones pointing rifles at the kid in the concentration camp. That's true.
The Jewish people are no longer helpless in the face of our enemies.
Now we are the ones building the camps. Now we are the ones with the indomitable military force. Now we are the ones who appeal to religious historical allegory to justify our ethnic supremacy.
Woo! Many choose to stand with evil.
Here we go.
They stand with Hamas. These protesters stand with them. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Fetterman's wearing a suit for this. The one time he wears a suit. Classic. Thank you, Fetterman. In case you ever wondered how the American people could be largely against the Vietnam War protesters, the student protests, even though the Vietnam War has gone on to be thought of as a mistake by basically everyone. This is how. This is a joint session of Congress applauding a foreign leader calling college protesters who are anti-genocide in our country pro-Hamas. And they're standing and clapping for it. This is how.
And I wish to salute the fraternity brothers at the University of North Carolina who protected the American flag.
Holy shit, he's referring to the racist-ass frat boys who charged over to defend a flag post. Jesus Christ.
Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. Not that many, but they're there. And throughout the city.
Yep. All agitators are actually being paid by like an ethnic enemy who exists both within and without society. That's true, man. You know, they call it the Iranian question.
Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well
do you know that if you're gay in Gaza, they don't like you? Did you know that if you're gay in Gaza, you're likely to be killed by an Israeli JDAM? Oh man, that's crazy.
Signs saying chickens for KFC.
Whoa! Being clapped by the anti-gay Republican caucus.
Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled?
Constantly invoking like biblical historicism as a way of justifying the legitimacy of current rule. Hey, don't you know this is historically Jewish territory because like 4 billion years ago, some guys who wear like loincloths and killed boars with slings were here, you know?
The land of Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people. It's always been our home.
Except for all the time the Arabs were there, you know, like the whole time.
Always be our home.
Literally just blood and soil. Just explicit blood and soil. We're cheering for blood and soil. This is Lebensraum. This is indistinguishable from any rhetoric any Nazi employed in like expanding the homeland for the Germanic people.
80 years after the Holocaust.
Vaush Jews have had a continuous presence in Israel for thousands of years. That's crazy, man. Are you aware of any other groups that have had a continuous presence in Israel for thousands of years?
Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest hatred. For centuries, the massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusations. We were accused of...
You just accused Iran of funding the anti-genocide protests, dude.
The outrageous slanders that paint Israel as racist and genocidal are meant to delegitimize Israel, to demonize the Jewish state, and to demonize Jews everywhere.
Remember, you're anti-Semitic, you criticize Israel. I haven't heard this one before.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has shamefully accused Israel of deliberately starving the people of Gaza. This is utter, complete nonsense. It's a complete fabrication.
Guys, remember the Holocaust? It was really bad how people did the Holocaust. By the way, any credible reports you hear about us systemically slaughtering the ethnic population that we want gone, totally incorrect. Guys, remember when the Holocaust happened? It was really bad when the Holocaust happened. By the way, all of these, like, literally thousands of pages of international experts and leaders all around the world, like, unanimously concluding that we're using starvation as a weapon against the Palestinian people, all of it's fake.
The ICC prosecutor accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilians.
Who could ever believe such a thing if you haven't looked at any evidence to that point?
What in God's green earth is he talking about? The IDF has dropped millions of flyers, sent millions of text messages, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get Palestinian civilians out of harm's way.
Remember that time the World Kitchen people were on a scheduled route delivering scheduled aid, and the truck they were in got struck by a drone, and then people crawled out of the flaming wreckage to another truck, which also got struck by a drone, and then they crawled out of the flaming wreckage of that truck to get struck by another drone. And then afterwards, the IDF was like, I don't know.
The war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare.
This statistic came to me in a dream. I do not question it.
Remember what so many people said? If Israel goes into Rafah, there'll be thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of civilians killed. Well, last week, I went into Rafah. I visited our troops as they finished fighting Hamas's remaining terrorist battalions. I asked the commander there, how many terrorists did you take out in Rafah? He gave me an exact number, 1,203.
This is good. This is definitely how we measure. You know, this is unironically like when the Red Cross went over to Germany to inspect their concentration camps and relied on figures presented by the Nazis in a tour given by the Nazis. You're literally like, oh man, how many civilians have we killed? You're asking like fucking Heinrich, you know? Oh yeah, how many like innocent Jews have you killed? None. 9. Oh, okay. Like writing that down. Wait, why are we relying on military reports? You're supposed to have outside. Oh, but we can't get outside reports, can we? Because you block foreign journalists from accessing the strip and you kill domestic journalists. Ah, that's true. That's true.
I asked him, how many civilians were killed? He said, Prime Minister, practically none.
Practically none. Also, how the fuck would you know? Okay, this is wrong on so many levels. First of all, how would a military officer have conducted the necessary investigations to determine whether or not any person was a civilian or not? For 2, what if they're lying? For 3, don't you guys have a recorded history of calling everyone you kill a terrorist, whether or not they actually are? Like, you'll find 50 shredded babies next to a discarded rifle and say, oh yeah, they were all like hiding together in a coat to use the rifle, you know? They were like standing on each other's shoulders. Man, I can't believe we can get away with this shit, man. An estimate of nearly 200,000 dead, nearly 10% of the population of Gaza, and it could be significantly higher. We don't know how many are dead because Israel has specifically murdered local journalists. They literally drone striked the family houses of dozens and dozens of Palestinian journalists and have killed so many foreign workers that journalists are no longer entering Gaza to like do extensive investigation. They've killed journalists, Western journalists, in safe zones.
The ICC is trying to shackle Israel's hands and prevent us from defending ourselves.
From killing more innocents.
If Israel's hands are tied, America is next. And I'll tell you what else is next.
Wait, what? Fucking what? If Israel stops genociding Palestinians, then what? What are you referring to? Also good? But also, what are you referring to?
Iran's regime has been fighting America from the moment it came to power. In 1979, it stormed the American embassy.
Well, I wonder what happened in 1979, man. Just unprompted stormed the American embassy. 1979, famously a year in which nothing happened, and then they stormed the American embassy. You know, it's crazy. It is kind of funny how when it comes to foreign policy, in Iran, they're kind of split between geopolitical pragmatists who think that Israel is a front for America, and anti-Semites who think that America is a front for Israel, you know?
Thank you for your support and solidarity. Thank you for standing in Israel, with Israel, in our hour of need. Together, we shall defend our common civilization. Together, we shall secure a brilliant...
Common civilization is an insane thing to say when you're an ethno-nationalist in the Middle East, in a nation that was created by a collective diaspora of Jews from the Middle East and Europe and America to ostensibly flee anti-Semitic persecution from both the West and the Muslim world. Like the perceived synchronicity here, it's just remarkable. None of this makes sense if you understand Israel to be what they claim it is, and all of it makes sense if you understand it as a Western settler colonial project. Do you really think America and Britain would have allowed Israel to develop as it did if they weren't just a proxy for our political interests? Do you really think that fucking Western Europe gave a shit about Israel as a safe space for Jews? When have they ever cared? Woo! Tuck in your tie, you fucking slob. Yeah, Fetterman wore a fucking suit so that he could look good for his big wet boyfriend, Netanyahu.